Okay, so this coming week we're going to be talking about the immigration debate and immigration in the modern world. So I'm going to go through some history, a little bit about the history of immigration in the United States. Some of it we've learned about, some of it we haven't. And then you're going to get an assignment at the end of the video. So here we go. Immigration has been something that has been part of American history since the Declaration of Independence, and you can see it here in the slideshow, that one of the big reasons that Thomas Jefferson and the Founding Fathers disliked the King of England was that he made it hard for people to become naturalized citizens, and we'll talk about what that means later. But essentially, the Founding Fathers disliked that the King was against immigrants. They wanted to encourage immigrants in the New World, or in America. We can see that there's a long history of immigration or of controversy over immigration. When the nation first started, you can see here that, I gotta go back, sorry, that in 1776, people were allowed into the country with absolutely no restriction, just totally unrestricted. But slowly, as the nation starts to grow, more and more people become opposed to the idea of immigration. At first, people are opposed to immigration because of religious reasons or because of democratic reasons, and then it moves on to be more about racist reasons or economic reasons. We normally talk about the height, or most of the immigration we've been talking about has been around in here, 1892 to 1917. But in 1917, the government stopped letting in immigrants in huge numbers and started to create quotas. Required some very important tests to be taken, and essentially started making it less and less likely for Americans or for people to become Americans. And we can see that it goes all the way up to the last 20 years, mostly by the end being about workers, right? So the big issue with immigration today has to do with work. Why should people come to America to find work when there's not enough work for Americans? That's the big question, right? And we can see here that in the last 50 years, polls have shown that more and more Americans are opposed to immigration, mostly because of their fears about the economy, right? How am I going to make money? And if I can't make enough money, how come other people should come to America and try to make money off of me? Nonetheless, the United States has a huge number of immigrants. Some 34 million people immigrated to the United States as of 2004. That number has only gone up in the last 10 years. We can see that most of them, the largest number, are from Mexico. Then the second largest are from China and Asia in general. Then Cuba, Vietnam, El Salvador, and the Dominican Republic. So largely we're getting people from Asia and Central and South America. 56 million people in the United States, or 20% of the population, is either a first-generation immigrant, that means that they were born here, but their parents were not, or has one or both parents that are immigrants. Right? So 1 in 5 people is either the child of an immigrant or an immigrant themselves. It means immigration is a huge deal in the United States. Some important definitions for us to know as we start to talk about immigration in the modern world. The technical definition of a citizen is someone who has sworn loyalty to a nation. That means because I say I'm an American and I have the rights of an American, and it's why we say the Pledge of Allegiance, that makes me a citizen of the United States. Naturalization, this is probably the most important word we're going to be talking about, and I talked about it earlier, is the process by which citizenship is conferred, or is how people go from being an immigrant to being an American citizen. And it starts with a period of continuous residence. So you have to live in the United States with permission from the government for at least 5 years before you can become a citizen. You have to be able, you see here in green, it says you have to be able to read and write and speak English. You have to have a knowledge and understanding of U.S. history and government. Very important, right? You can see that. This is why we take U.S. history. All citizens should understand their history. Good moral character, which means you can't be a criminal, you can't be a weirdo. You have to be attached to the principles of the U.S. Constitution. Remember those 6 principles we learned about at the beginning of the year. In order to become an American, you have to prove that you agree with them. And then a favorable disposition toward the United States. So in order to become a citizen, not having been born here, you have to agree that the United States is a good place to be. Some other key words. A resident is someone who intends to stay here, right, who lives in America and intends to stay. An undocumented immigrant is someone who does not have permission. It means they crossed a border illegally to get into the United States. Someone who is illegal is prohibited by law or accepted rules. In other words, they lack permission to become a citizen. Guest worker is someone who is hired on a temporary basis, right? So if I was a concert trumpet player and I lived in China and they wanted me to come and play and work in America, in New York City, I could do that, but only for a certain amount of time. That would make me a guest worker. It could be an economic migrant, which is very similar. It's when you come to America on a yearly basis to do the same work and then you go back to your country. So let's say I liked to do work as an apple picker, right? So I pick apples during apple season and then I go back to the country I came from. You can be a resident alien, and we're going to talk more about this word alien in a minute, but a resident alien is a foreign national. So let's say I'm an Italian who lives in America. That doesn't mean I'm an American, nor do I want to become an American, but I do want to work in America. Then the last term on this page is a refugee, and we talked about refugees. Those are like the guys in the movie we watched, that's someone seeking escape. Documents are official papers that say that you're allowed to live here. Green card, right? We talk about green cards. We hear about green cards a lot. Green cards are temporary permission or lawful permanent residency, right? So you're allowed to live and work here. Visa says you're allowed to come into the country. Citizenship is membership in a political community, right? It means becoming an American. And then border is a geographic boundary between two political entities. In other words, it's the line separating two countries, right? Those are some important definitions. A word I do not want us to be using in this class is the word alien. Technically, it means any person who is not a citizen or a national of the United States. But along with the word illegal, we don't refer to people as illegals or as aliens, right? That's not the correct term. We use the term immigrant. Because of the negative connotation, right? Aliens are strange or unknown, a creature from outer space, right? It's not necessarily a good thing. Some things to think about, that there's a lot of different ways to describe immigration into the United States. It can be a good thing and it can be a bad thing. What is the current image of the United States? Because it changes, today we believe differently than we used to. And there have been ups and downs in immigration in the past, right? Sometimes it's been good to be an immigrant, sometimes bad. So immigration is definitely a major part of U.S. history. We can see, though, that despite the ups and downs, immigration has risen, just keeps rising, right? It's not like we're getting any fewer immigrants every year. Although there have been some major attempts to limit immigration, right? As of October 1st, 2006, Congress okayed the 700-mile border fence with Mexico, attempting to really draw the line, right? So you're not allowed in America. What I want you to do in order to understand this argument about immigration is to find one article about immigration or immigrants in the United States from the last month. It has to be dated in the month of September 2015, right? I don't want any articles from a year ago or 10 years ago, just this month. And then write a summary of the article to bring to class on Monday. All right, that's it for this week. Sorry, it was a long video.